am your host, Sharon Rolph, and you are listening to Fresh Courage. It's your time to shine, coming to you on the Transformation Talk Radio Network. And I want everybody to live wholeheartedly, to enjoy everything, and live boldly with meaningfulness. So, however, you may have been knocked off your feet recently by a transition like retirement or becoming a widow, or a former caregiver, or somebody has. So this sometimes leaves people feeling confused, marginalized, invisible, or useless and bored. So I've been through some of that. And now I love helping people find new clarity and new direction so they can experience the ideal, a place to fit in, to matter, and to make a difference. I'm the creator of the Effortless Vitality Plan and the Longevity Blueprint. Our topic today is confidence. Do we all need confidence? Wow. Well, Kate McGuinness lost it and found it. So she's here to nourish yours today. So you might want to take some notes because she's got some good nuggets to share with us. So Kate's desire is to help women advance toward their goals. Um, Towards their goals, motivated her to write her book, Confidence Lost and Confidence Found, to reclaim the unstoppable you. She's found developing greater self-assurance empowers women to realize their dreams and to speak about the changes that our society desperately needs. Kate went from being a confident, high-flying Los Angeles lawyer to existing in an exile on an Iowa farm town, having lost her confidence along the way. Her surprise termination from a dream job started downward spiral that deepened when her severance check bounced and divorce happened. The confidence she had found differed dramatically from the feeling she had experienced as a prominent lawyer. Her newfound confidence doesn't hinge on anyone else's praise or approval. It comes from within. It's authentic. She gives it to herself, and it's sustainable. So, reclaiming confidence that sticks with confidence lost, confidence found. Welcome, Kate.
Oh,
Nice to have you today.
yeah. You gave a wonderful summary of what my goal is in terms of helping women.
Yeah, and kind of your purpose, I bet, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are we going to learn today, and why is it relevant?
Well, I think what we're going to learn today are ways that we can meet the challenges that come to us throughout our life, whether the challenges are, as you suggest, losing a job, retiring, losing a spouse. There's so many challenges, including the coronavirus out there, that
Yeah,
we all have to meet every day. And so
yeah.
I have some, oh, yes, there you go.
What drew you to become an attorney, Kate?
Well, it's a long story. I had never met an attorney in my life, but I had lost my job. I moved. I had been a teacher
Mm,
and I moved across the country and during a recession, and I couldn't find a teaching job. And I ended up working as a medical receptionist, and I knew I had to do more. I wanted to be a veterinarian, and this was a long time ago, Sharon. And I was told, oh no, they don't let women into veterinary schools. So then I thought, well, what else could I do? And I had done a lot of debate when I was in high school, done speech when I was in college. So I thought, well, maybe I could be a lawyer.
mm-hmm.
And so I took the law school admission test and did well. Was lucky I got a scholarship. So yeah, I worked at it for 3 years. Going to law school is pretty difficult, but
Mm-hmm.
I made my way through.
So then you got this, like the intro, you got a dream job at a law firm, and you rose up to the ranks of vice president, was it?
Well, yes, I did. It was that too was a journey, and I guess all of us have journeys and winding paths in life. And so I was delighted to get an offer at this very big international law firm. And it takes 7.5 years of hard work before you're even considered to be a partner. I became a partner. I was a partner for 10 years. And
Wow.
then a big Fortune 200 company, with thousands of employees, millions of dollars in assets and income, they recruited me. They came after me and said, "Oh, we'd like you to be our general counsel, their head lawyer, and their vice president." And I thought, well, this sounds interesting. It'd be different. I'd already been a lawyer in private practice for 17, 18 years by then. So I took the job, which sounded interesting and was.
Hmm.
But problem with being the head lawyer for any corporation is you have to say no. Not always, but there are things that you do have to say no to. And that was not a popular answer. So I ended up getting fired quite unexpectedly. I had gotten a
Wow.
big bonus, 3 or 4 months earlier and thought everything was great. And then one sunny morning, I found out it was not great.
So have you, I imagine you've probably second doubted yourself a couple times, is like whether saying no was a good idea.
Well, the people that I worked for, the people I was saying no to, I knew what was driving them, and there were so many constituencies inside a corporation. You have the executives who want to advance their career, and the way they do that is they make more money for the shareholders. And you have the shareholders who want more money. And then there's a very small constituency, which is, oh, we got to comply with the law. We got to deal with the SEC. And so that kind of leads to some conflict and cross streams. So, I knew there were cross streams, but I was dedicated to doing the right thing. And basically, in any occupation, but particularly as a lawyer, you're only as good as your reputation, as your name. And if you get
Mm.
reputation for cutting corners and being a sharp lawyer, that's the end of a long-term career. That's not how I wanted to be known.
Yeah. So you made a stand for your own convictions
Exactly. That's
and
yes,
truth. Yeah.
captured it. Yep.
Okay. And I think I'd like to think that women are better at that than men, but it all comes from where your integrity lies and what your, yeah. Wow. So I actually made an art block that have you forgotten who you are? So
Right.
oh, I got it upside down. Make you look extra hard. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you got fired, that was quite a surprise, you said, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And then you're second guessing um, what happens next, because, like you say, your reputation is quite at stake. So you had to reclaim yourself, didn't you, after losing your severance and then being on Iowa farm, your divorce happened?
Yes, you're absolutely right. It took me quite some time to figure out who I was. And in truth, Sharon, who I was and who I am today is not really the same person who was the super successful Los Angeles lawyer. That person was so fixated on getting the approval of others all my life. As a kid, you go through school and you do well and you get gold stars here, gold stars there. And Then eventually, when the gold stars get ripped away or fall off, then you have to figure out, well, who am I without these gold stars? And who I am without the gold stars actually is the real me.
Yeah, and I think that's one place where women are especially vulnerable is trying to live up to other people's expectations um, more than others, and I think it's getting better. But so we're going to ask Kate more about this reclaiming herself when we come back from our break, and we're going to talk about self-compassion. So I imagine that plays in pretty strongly to Kate's story. So stay tuned. So you are listening to Fresh Courage on Transformation Talk Radio, and I'm your host, Sharon Rolph. And I have with me today my guest, Kate McGuinness. And we were talking about reclaiming yourself. What did you do to reclaim yourself, Kate?
And so when we're acting with authenticity, that's part of how we build our confidence.
Yeah.
So that if you act in accordance with your
Mhm.
values and what
Mhm.
you believe, and you go through the exercise that you suggest in your plan, you get to the pearly gates, and St. Peter asks you this question. So, what do you care about? What mattered to you? What have you enjoyed most in your life? And getting a grip on your values and those items lets you build your authenticity. And if you're not acting out of authenticity, you can't be confident.
Yeah, because you keep wondering, like, why am I getting this break? If they really knew me, they wouldn't love me, kind of thing, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so often, we second guess ourselves, like, who do you well, I even had a relative one time, like, Who do you think you are?"
Yeah.
So, we have to know that that's where that confidence kinda comes into play, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. But, second guessing ourselves really, boy, that's the voice of our inner critic. And so many women really struggle with having this voice in their head. Who do you think you are? How could you have done that? What made you think that? I mean, that's the inner critic speaking. And we have to learn how to retire that inner critic. You're right. Just
Yeah.
say,
And,
okay, thank
um
you for your help, but I don't need you anymore.
well, it seems like we kinda get caught up in, what will people think?
Oh,
What does that have anything to do with my authenticity?
right. But so many of us, all of us, men and women, really play for the approval of others. And if you think about it, that really goes back to how all of us were raised. When you're a little child, you can't get your own food, you can't get your own water. And so the people who provide that, you really want to get their approval. So we all get scripted to search for the approval of our caretakers as we're growing up. And it's very hard to unwind that need for approval because it occurred quite naturally when we were children.
So, so what is this thing you call self-compassion, Kate?
Well, self compassion is such an important tool. And I learned about it through the work of Kristen Neff, who's a professor in Texas, I think in Austin. And it is a way of, it's one of the tools you can use to disarm the inner critic that I was just talking about.
Okay.
So you can use self compassion to deal with any situation in which you feel struggling, that you're suffering. And self compassion has 3 steps. And one of them is to say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. So that might be, let's put this right here in the present and say, I'm really afraid of the coronavirus. I'm struggling. I'm so nervous about this. I don't want to go to the grocery store. I don't want to have my friends come over. So that's a moment of suffering. So that's the first step. Recognize the moment of suffering. And you take that and then you say, well, You kind of modulate it and you say, well, is this really the end of the world? Do I have coronavirus? Does my child have coronavirus? No, hopefully. And so then you say, okay, I'm suffering, but I'm not on the brink. I'm not about to die. Nothing fatal is right there. So then you say, okay, I'm suffering. And then here's the interesting step, and this is so relevant for the coronavirus times, is you look around and you say, other people are suffering. I'm not alone in this pain. And when you do that, it helps you realize that it's not that you are deficient. Yeah, you're suffering, but it's not because you're deficient. So you can say, yeah, okay, other people are suffering too. And again, because of our evolutionary and childhood imperatives, if you think that you're the only one that's suffering, oh man, you're really alone. That's really dangerous. You don't have the tribe surrounding you and helping you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you can say, oh, all right, I'm suffering, moment of suffering, I'm not alone. And then you get to the third step, which is then to be kind to yourself. And so you might say, oh, sweetheart, I know this is hard for you. Or come on, kid, you'll be okay. You've gotten through hard times before. You'll get through them now. And then you can do something. You can just give yourself a hug. And if you're in the office when you're feeling really stressed, then, make it look like you're stretching. Oh, but it's really a hug. Or put your hand on your face. What would you do to a child or a dear friend who is suffering? How would you be kind and compassionate? You go through those 3 steps and it really helps.
I was moved profoundly when I realized that just naming and acknowledging that the anxiety is there often starts dissipating the whole trauma.
Yeah, that's right. That's a very powerful step, is to recognize it and name it. What's going on?
Yeah.
Something's going on. Well, right now it might be fear.
Mm-hmm. And saying, it's kind of like looking in the mirror. Okay, fear, I see you.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. Yeah, right.
So, I think I saw in your book you had a chapter called Lions, Tigers, and Bears. And
right.
What does that have to do with confidence, Kate?
Well, we all are afraid of lions, tigers, and bears. And how do you deal with that fear? Well, you have to have courage. And now what that has to do with confidence is taking action. That is essentially what confidence is. You're faced with something. Are you going to act? Are you going to get on this freeway that has 4 lanes in your direction and it's raining? Okay, do I have the confidence to do that? Well, you have to muster your courage to do it. So that's where, when we're a child, we're afraid of lions, tigers, and bears, and we have to have courage. So how do we get the courage to act?
Yeah, I wrote a note preparing for this that courage is hard in spite of risk. So, yeah.
That's really capturing it very well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it often doesn't take a risk to do, walking out the door, but to have heart in spite of risk is where we may not be that strong in courage.
Right. Well, and that's a really good point, because courage comes from the French word corps, which means heart. So you have heart in spite of risk, and you might make one of your lovely embroidered pieces that has a heart on it that talks about courage, because we all need courage.
Yeah, like this is, oops.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah. Love does take courage.
I don't think we often consider that, when, like, if you're budding a new relationship, it does take courage to tell the truth, your truth, and try to act from your heart. But do we think about love and courage at work or in the workplace? But hey, if we're commuting on the bus and somebody needs something, the courageous thing is to do something out of love.
Right. That's right.
So let's see. Do you have another example of lions, tigers, and bears?
Oh, wow. Lions, tigers, and bears. Would you like an example of how to deal?
Okay. Uh-huh. So, and especially when we come back from our break, we're going to do that, but we got a couple minutes yet.
That you find a place of refuge in your mind. And what's that place? So you think of a place where you feel calm, where you feel safe, maybe even a place where you could cry and you wouldn't mind anybody seeing you. And think about that place and think about it in detail. Think about it in the detail that as if it were on a wide screen. So what are you seeing? Are you seeing trees? Are you seeing plants? Are you seeing running water? Are you seeing birds out there? What do you smell? What's in the air? And it's another way to trigger our senses. And is there anybody else there? Well, maybe there isn't. Maybe there is. Maybe somebody that you love there. You might picture them. Maybe it's a bench that you used to sit on with your husband who's now gone. Or maybe for me, it's a picture of the ranch that I used to live on when I was near my son's school. And so I look out, beautiful valley. There are trees. I can smell the sage on the hillside. I can see a red-tailed hawk circling above me. I can hear his cry. And that's it's a place of refuge where if you're feeling frightened, you can take courage in your place of refuge.
Yeah, yeah. Between the beauty and the air and the fragrance and the animals. Wow. Yeah, nice picture. Nice picture. Well, I think we're going to go to a break again, and then we'll be right back to. She's got some steps for us to take when we're considering moving ahead with confidence after we found confidence. Stay tuned. Okay, thank you for coming back to Fresh Courage. It's your time to shine on Transformation Talk Radio. And my guest, Kate McGuinness, was telling us how to take action when we're trying to build our confidence. Let's go over those, Kate.
So confidence is about taking action. And sometimes taking action can be scary. And we may need courage to defeat the fear that's there. And so how can we muster courage? Well, one way is to think about in your mind in a visualization exercise. Think about a place where you feel safe. Maybe safe is sitting on a bench in your garden, and visualize that in your mind. Think about sitting there. How does the bench feel underneath you? What do you see in front of you? Do you see flowers? Are there bees buzzing? Are there birds flitting around? Do you smell fragrance? Maybe your roses are in bloom. Is it cold? Maybe you have to put on a sweater. Or maybe it's hot. Maybe you need to sort of unbutton the blouse that you have on. But try and capture all of your senses as you think about this safe place. Think about a place that you could consider a refuge.
I like that a lot. Yeah, it reminds me of the webinar I watched shortly after I retired when the guy was saying that when we have warm memories, it strengthens, gives us mental strength. And that's often what we need to move ahead with courage, with confidence.
Well, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his point was to picture a memory, and his was in the back seat of an airplane. He was giving his 4-year-old son a airplane ride, and he felt so warm such a warm memory from that. And so he would marshal that memory to face whatever needed courage and confidence going forward.
And there are other things you can do, like think about a song that Worry, Be Happy, maybe.
Yeah.
Or, I love Hakuna Matata from The Lion King. I think of that as a very, very happy, upbeat song. Or the theme from Rocky. But have a song that plays through your mind. Or another way is just to have a phrase, a little catchphrase, that when you start to feel the fear coming on, what are you going to say to yourself? My catchphrase is all right now. So I am all right now, in this moment of so much fear in the pandemic, well, I am all right now. I'm sitting here talking to Sharon.
Or you rock, Kate. All right. So you're saying that we should take action in spite of the risk, and taking action can be buoyed up with these warm memories of what is a safe place for us. Is there another step that you recommend?
In order to take action or to move with courage, sometimes what we need to do is to remember all of our comebacks.
Yes.
Yeah. What have I done in the past? Was I able to master a situation like this? Was I all right back then? Yes, I did. I succeeded. One of the things I really believe in to act with confidence is to kind of keep a catalog of your successes. So remember the successes you've had, whether it's making a great Halloween costume for your kid, or baking a wonderful cake, or clearing the paper jam from the printer. Those are all successes. And remember those. Maybe even create a journal about them.
Yeah, sometimes the argument comes, well, don't pat yourself on the back or break your arm. And yet, if we don't do it, who is? And besides, it's affirming that we've got a brain and we've got creativity and we've got a conviction that we're operating from that makes us valuable for the job, rising to the occasion.
Right, absolutely. I think on top of creating a list of your successes, what can be very valuable is creating a pride kit. So, yeah, that might be having a file in your desk drawer that collects your atta-girls when people have sent you a note. Maybe a client says, oh, you did a great job on this deal. Or maybe what goes in an atta-girl file is you get a thank you note for a dinner party that you gave. And people say, oh, the paella was wonderful. Could I have your recipe? Maybe it's a note from your child who says, oh, you're the world's best mom. And those are all things that build your pride. And
yeah,
absolutely, we all need to have pride.
Well, yeah, and I while I was preparing my topic to talk with you today, it came to mind a couple other books that had a lot to do with do we have the fortitude to move forward? Like another woman author, Angela Duckworth, wrote the book Grit, and you would think Grit would be. Yeah, you would think it'd come from John Wayne, Or Sheryl Sandberg is really popular right now with her Fearless book. I haven't gotten that one yet, but that's what moving forward with in spite of the risk is being fearless.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and I think sometimes it speaks to how much of a conviction do I have that somebody needs to say something, and it might as well be me, And I think in these days, especially, I'm starting to recognize every week or so how as we get older, the younger people need to hear from us and our experiences. And we've got something for them to pay attention to. Do you agree with that, Kate?
Oh, absolutely. And that really ties back with us at authenticity. So, what are your values? Are you willing to act on your values? And that is so important to knowing who you are. And at our point in life, Sharon, it lets us establish our what has our path in life been? What have I stood for? And if you can share that with your family or your community, when I turned 70, I wrote up a little list. Well, it wasn't so little, but it was after 70 years. And I ended up with 70 lessons. And some of them were big, some of them were, not so consequential, but I gave that to my son. So this is what I've learned after 70 years. And actually, I kind of think that would be a worthwhile project for most of us as we age. Sit down and make that list. Well, what have I learned after all these years?
Well, on our stories, it seems like stories reach into not only the mind, but the spirit and the gut. People often remember the stories more than maybe the lesson. But, when they get into a tough spot, kind of like what you're in, Kate, that, okay, what would Kate do in this situation?
Well, I certainly hope your kid would think, well, what would mom do in this situation? With kids.
Yeah.
Opposition.
Well, okay, when we come back, we're going to ask Kate about resilience, because I think resilience is a big piece of this moving forward with confidence and courage. So stay tuned to Fresh Courage. It's your time to shine. Okay, Kate McGuinness is with me, and I'm Sharon Rolph on Fresh Courage Transformation Talk Radio, and we're going to talk about resilience now. What does resilience have to do with confidence, and why do we need resilience? Tell us about that, Kate.
Well, resilience is really very close to courage. So perhaps we've mustered our courage to take action, and confidence is about taking action. So we've taken action, and maybe it didn't come out so well. Maybe despite all of our best actions, there has been a setback. So then you have to ask yourself, am I going to try again? And it's that big willingness to try again and again, which really, as you mentioned, is grit, which is Angela Duckworth's. So you need resilience you've had courage and you tried to do something, and it didn't work. So how can you put your nose to the grindstone again? How can you try and push that lever one more time? And some of the ways to muster resilience are to think about your comebacks. So, so maybe where have I failed before, but I still came back, notwithstanding what defeat or setback I suffered before. And if you can muster that feeling of, okay, I can do this, I can go on. One of the things that I talk about in my book is when I was in my first year of law school, and I had been doing really well at the end of the first semester. And then the beginning of the second semester, oh, wow, I really got hit with a storm. My dad died. I found out my husband was gay. And my mom and I thought she had agreed to what should happen at my dad's funeral, which was that he wouldn't be puffed up with a lot of cotton in his face, because he was pretty gaunt after dying from cancer. So she agreed, but then that's not what the undertaker did. So here I was, I was hit pretty hard by all three of them.
Yeah, I often think of resilience as either coming at an issue from a different direction, or if you feel like you've gotten knocked down, do they have the courage and the grit to get back up? But sometimes, and I've been paying more attention to, sometimes people need to hear things, sometimes people need to see things or to read things. And it all goes in seemingly in a different gate in your mind. But if you have to come at it from a different direction and it lands correctly for what you intend, then it was time well spent.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's like when we talked earlier, it's kind of what's coming through your ears. What are the sounds that cheer you up? Or maybe you love music. Well, movies. Think about some movie heroine that really was resilient. She kept going. Maybe it's Scarlett O'Hara. Think about some character in a book that has demonstrated resilience. Or maybe it's someone in history. I mean, you think of someone like Rosa Parks, or some of the women who were suffragettes and were imprisoned for months fighting for women's rights. So you can, as you say, trigger those different senses or avenues of knowledge that can help you become more resilient.
Well, in your book, you have you said we need to have a repertoire of saying no. Tell us quickly what that's about.
Well, I think all of us, but I think women especially. So how can we soften the no? So the no can be, no, I can't come to this meeting tonight, but I could help you tomorrow. So it's no, but with an offer of help. Or no, I can't give to your charity today, but it's wonderful that you're supporting it. So you're appreciating them. And you might say, no, I'm sorry, I can't help this week, but next week, after my work is leveled off, I will help you. So that's no with a specific offer of help. And then another way is to say, no, I really can't do this because if I did, I wouldn't be living my values. I wouldn't be spending time with my family.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't support this charity because it's inconsistent with my values.
Mm-hmm. So what about, you also say tame perfectionism?
Oh, boy. I think that's a huge problem for women. And I mean, I really see it with women lawyers. And so we try so hard to get everything right down to the gnat's eyelash. And we can really drive ourselves crazy doing that. So the desire to be perfect, again, comes out of the need for approval that we were talking about earlier. Where do we get the need for approval? Well, we depended on our parents and our caretakers when we were little kids. And, no, I'm not going to give you dessert unless you do this task perfectly. You've got to go out and master your figure skating, master your ballet. Let me see that beautiful painting, write a beautiful poem. And those are all the ways that we play to get parental or family approval. And so that kind of wires into our brain this pathway of, I've just got to do this perfectly. And if I don't, I will lose approval. And as a child, losing approval can be life-threatening.
So you have an offer for our audience today, a free list of 10 tips for authentic confidence. So tell us how we can get that.
Please go to my website, katemcguinness.com. And let me just say, McGuinness is spelled like the Guinness Book of Records or Guinness Stout. You just slap an MC in front of it. So katemcguinness.com, and you'll see there how you can get the 10 tips for authentic confidence. And moreover, I've been so happy to be on your show, Sharon, that if someone would send me an email, kate@katemcguinness.com, the first person who sends me an email, I will send them a print copy of my book.
Wow, that's a generous offer, Kate. Thank you. Now, you can also be found on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. Is that right?
Absolutely. All those points, and also Facebook.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Your book came out in January, Confidence Lost and Confidence Found. Um, and it's about the getting back, reclaiming the unstoppable you. What do you see in your future? What are you going to do next, Kate?
Well, what I'm planning on doing next is, so here's my book. And what I'm doing next is I'm going to do I'm going to expand this book. I'm going to create a workbook and a journal. So to help people actually go through the exercises and learn how to reclaim the unstoppable you.
Yeah, your story reminds me of somebody I've been trying to get on my show too. That her book starts with something about 55, underemployed, and faking real, or something to that effect. And she had also a high-powered job. And she, in fact, created at the end of each of her chapters, she created something that she called resilience questions, or a circle. And in fact, I've considered starting a resilience circle with Meetup, where how it started for her, she'd get together with her cousin or best friend and tell each other ain't it awful stories, to the point that you laugh hysterically about how bad it's getting. And we could kind of do that with this coronavirus pandemic thing, but it was another way of her getting her confidence back and having a way to move forward. So I want to encourage you to get in touch with Kathleen. She gave you an email address, but another one I had was author.kathleen at .mcguinness@gmail.com. And she's offering us a free book. And I want you to, I want to thank Kate for being here today and helping us to be unstoppable. And then I want you to rate and review our show if you like it. And I can be reached at effortlessvitality.org. And my little quilt blocks that I like to make are on Quilted Petunia at the Etsy store. And my website is freshly revamped. And I have done a bunch of vlogs, or blogs, both of them. And they can be found on YouTube under Sharon Rolph. So any wrap-up comment you want to make, Kate?
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here with you, Sharon. I think you're doing some really important work for your audience, and I'm glad to help.
Thank you. And thank you for writing your book, because we all need to be contributing to those coming behind us, don't we?
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being here. And we'll see you next week on It's Your Time to Shine, Fresh Courage.